Hi there, we'll get started in just a moment. Looks like a couple of people got connected. We'll get started here in just a moment. Give it till right about 3 after, just to give people a chance to connect, and then we'll get kicked off. Okay, we can go ahead and get started. So as an introduction on my end, my name is Danny. I lead the revenue team here at Pipedream. Super excited to go through a demo of our application today. I know there's a couple people here that are on the Zoom, and it looks like a couple people are connected on the live stream as well. So we're going to walk through an overview of the application. We're going to talk through how to go about creating your first workflow, as well as highlight a couple of key aspects and functionality of the platform, and then we'll open it up to questions at the end. It's about a 5-10 minute overview, and then we'll have plenty of time to answer any questions that anyone might have. So to kick things off, if you're unfamiliar with Pipedream, I want to give a little bit of context, and then we'll dive into things further. So if you're familiar with any type of workflow automation tool on the market, such as Zapier, at a high level, Pipedream should be a fairly familiar experience. It works in a similar way in that we provide thousands of out-of-the-box connectors for popular SaaS applications. However, we've heard from customers repeatedly that a regular challenge occurs where the majority of these tools on the market are a little bit too restrictive. And when you're looking to create more sophisticated workflows between your different SaaS tools, a lot of the tools on the market effectively come short. This is where Pipedream really shines in this space. Pipedream is built for developers. We enable easy connections with web APIs so that developers can create custom serverless workflows. We provide out-of-the-box triggers and actions like other tools you might be familiar with, but we also allow full code level control, which allows customers to build truly powerful custom solutions on Pipedream. So we're going to talk through that in a bit of detail here. To kick things off, when you get into Pipedream, Pipedream is structured around this concept of projects and workflows. A project is where you go to organize your workflows. On a high level, think of projects as folders. You can create nested folders so you can group similar workflows together and create a logical hierarchy and structure within your account for managing your different workflows. I've got a couple of different projects here. I'm going to start with my non-GitHub project, and then we'll come back to the GitHub project in a bit and talk a little bit more detail about what that looks like. So within my non-GitHub project, I have a couple of different workflows. I'm going to click into this Jira to Slack workflow and highlight a couple of things here. So first off, when you build a workflow, you have the ability to add a trigger. A trigger is what initiates and kicks off your workflow. We have over 1,000 different applications that we connect to, and many of those applications have a whole bunch of different trigger actions that you can use. This is an example that I'm using for Jira. So it's using one of our pre-built Jira triggers so that when an event occurs in Jira, it then initiates and kicks off my workflow. The second step here is with Slack, but this is actually a custom code step. So really important here, we have a whole bunch of built-in actions. So actions are what occur after your workflow is triggered. As you might expect, there's a whole bunch of different out-of-the-box actions, but where things get really powerful is when you have the ability to fully customize that with custom code. So if I click into here, I can edit this and highlight a couple of really important aspects. The first is that when you go and add a custom code step, we support a variety of popular different coding languages, Node and Python being the two most widely adopted and popular. With Node and Python, in addition to letting you write the custom code, you also have the ability to import and leverage NPM or PyPy packages, which allows you to really up-level and use those existing packages in your workflows. We also have the ability to do AI code generation. And so I know AI code generation is kind of a buzzword, and there's a lot of companies that are implementing it in different ways. The way we've implemented it here is particularly powerful. We've done two things. First, we've trained the model on our own API documentation, so it knows the correct syntax for writing workflow steps within Pipedream. But what makes it super powerful is we've actually trained it on all the API documentation for all the different apps we connect to. So in addition to being able to properly write the syntax for Pipedream workflows, it also knows how to write the syntax for all the different apps that you might want to connect to. The case here, this is all generated, or this code step is all generated and written through AI, and it knows how to communicate to Slack to actually correctly pass the message and the events from my Jira trigger to a specific Slack channel, all through an AI generated code step. When you create these code steps, you can iterate on it. So if something isn't exactly right, you have the ability to generate new code from scratch. So you can just throw everything out and restart it. Or you can use the edit existing code where you can effectively just iterate on that same prompt. So you have your initial prompt, and then you can add changes and modifications to keep modifying and updating that code step. That at a high level is the basics of creating a workflow. You've got a trigger and an action. And so this workflow is set up. So when an event happens in Jira, it then initiates this action where we pass a couple of data points from that trigger into a specific Slack channel that's all specified here in the code steps. Where Pipedream starts to get even more powerful is when you start to get into some of the workflow settings. So if I click on the more actions icon on the top right here, and I click on settings, we provide you a UI for managing a whole bunch of different serverless workflow settings directly within the application. Things as simple as managing the amount of memory dedicated to this workflow, or setting up auto retries are all available through sliders, and out of the box, just click checkboxes. What I want to highlight here are two particularly powerful items, which are the elimination of cold starts and running in a VPC. Eliminating cold starts is super important if you are creating any type of workflow that is business critical or just generally important, and you want to ensure that it fires rapidly, but the workflow itself runs fairly irregularly. So if you have a workflow that's running constantly, it's always going to be active. You'll have pretty low latency on the trigger occurring and the workflow actually processing. But if you have a workflow that maybe runs once or twice a day, but when it runs, it's important that it runs urgently, eliminating cold starts is what you want to enable. That leverages a warm worker so that that workflow is always ready to go whenever it's invoked. The other important option here is the VPC option. Running in a VPC is our virtual private cloud offering. It allows you to run your workflow in a dedicated VPC. It's super important if you have high security standards of the data that's being managed and processed within your workflow, or if you're looking to run a workflow that's processing data for an on-premise system. The VPC option will give you a static IP address that you can use to whitelist in your firewall so that we have the ability to process information and communicate to that on-premise system. Now, taking a step back here, we will go to the GitHub project. So what we're looking at there was a non-GitHub project. That's just a standard project. It's just folders and workflows. GitHub sync projects are special. The GitHub sync projects allow you to connect your Pipedream account to a GitHub account. This allows you to manage workflows and the development of workflows in alignment with your internal software development controls. When you sync a workflow to a GitHub project, it allows the creations of branches for your workflows, and it also creates reviewable merges and commits to ensure that you have a history of changes that are logged and captured for all business critical workflows that you're managing within Pipedream. If I come in here and edit my workflow, again, it's a similar UI, except when I'm looking at this workflow, I now have the ability, as opposed to just to deploy the workflow, I have the ability to merge and commit the changes. If I merge or commit this workflow, you'll have a screen that pops up. that highlights everything that was changed since the last merger commit. And it allows you and your team to review and track and have full visibility into everything that has occurred and changed within that workflow. So again, for emphasis, it's just really important when you're managing any type of critical business process, because now with the GitHub sync, you have the ability to really have visibility and control over who's changing what, and full visibility into everything that's been modified and changed within a given workflow. A couple of other key items to highlight here within the overall just Pipedream UI. We have a couple of additional advanced pieces of functionality. That would be the sources and data stores. Sources are important, especially for more advanced users of Pipedream. They allow you to do two really important things. First, they allow you to create custom triggers. That can be as simple as taking one of our existing triggers where we have the authentication built in as part of Pipedream, but maybe we have a couple of built-in triggers, but we don't have the exact trigger that your team wants to use, and your team might want to use that trigger in a bunch of different workflows. Sources allow you to actually create your own custom triggers that you can publish and then reuse within your various workflows. Beyond just using more of the out-of-the-box triggers and triggers that are built for public SaaS applications, the really advanced use case here is that if your team is managing internal SaaS applications, so tools that you've actually purpose-built for internal use, of course, we're not going to have out-of-the-box triggers for those, but the custom sources allow you to actually build your own custom sources and triggers for those internal applications as well, so that your team can then build and create workflows for those applications. Data stores also powerful for more advanced users. Data stores are Pipedream's built-in key value stores. They're super useful for use cases where you might need to read and write data between different workflows. So if you have workflows that are capturing and processing data, and then you have a different workflow that wants to make use of that data that's been captured and processed from that other workflow, the data stores allow you to do that. So again, more sophisticated, advanced uses. To move forward a bit here, we have our pricing. So pricing is pretty straightforward. First off, all new customers on Pipedream are granted complimentary access to our advanced plan for 14 days. So when you sign up for Pipedream, the first 14 days, you have access to our advanced plan, which includes a couple of really key things. First and foremost, it's unlimited workflows and unlimited data connections. So you can connect to as many different applications as you want and create as many different workflows as you want within that initial 14-day period. You also have access to some of the more advanced functionality that we covered, such as the GitHub sync, as well as the AI code generation. At the end of the 14 days, you have the option to upgrade to one of the paid plans, or you would just downgrade into the free plan. The free plan, the big items to call it there is it's limited on the number of connected accounts and workflows. You can have 5 active workflows and 3 connected accounts. The advanced plan is our most popular plan for business customers because it includes the unlimited workflows and connected accounts. It also includes those advanced functionality around your workflow controls, such as the auto retries and elimination of cold starts. The business plan is particularly popular with, I'd say, the more security conscious customers, the customers that are truly managing business critical workflows with a high degree of data security behind them, because it enables the VPC functionality, which has that higher security profile, as well as the ability to connect to on-premise systems. It also includes our premium support, as well as the ability to work with us if you need a custom application built. So if you need to connect to some application that we don't already have support with, and you would like us to help build that connection for you, that's something that we can agree to and work through on the business plan. I also want to highlight our support. So if you mouse over the left-hand side here and click on Help and Docs, this is where all of our support documentation exists. We have a really great set of self-service support documentation, as well as our Pipedream University, which has a whole bunch of video courses that you can go through to learn different aspects of building workflows on Pipedream. It's also where our support site exists. If you click on support, you can join our Slack community that is available for everyone. I always highly encourage people to join it. It's a great way to get help and get questions answered. A bunch of members from our developer team are on there and happy to help answer questions, as well as a whole community of customers that are always happy to chime in and provide feedback. This is also where you can submit support tickets to our team. We take a ton of pride. Our support team is awesome. We have a bunch of people with developer experience helping answer questions, so they can really step in and provide some great support if you're looking to have workflows built. It's also where you can connect with our partners. So if you're looking to have something super specific built for your team, and you either don't have technical resources that can build it, or your team's just busy and you would prefer not to build it yourself, we have an awesome partner network that can step in and they can help build for you. And through connecting with the partner, that will help you get connected with a member of that network. With that, that is the overview. So I'll open it up. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to unmute, shout them out, or you can type them into chat, whichever you are happiest and most comfortable with.
I got a question regarding the pricing for on the price chart you showed users. Yeah, right there. Said for the free, it's unlimited users, and then when you go to basic, it's one user.
Correct. So unlimited users, but the real constraint here is around the active workflows and connected accounts. And so usually you don't need tons and tons of people in your account if you can only make 5 workflows.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, and also, so I just started playing around with Pipedream. I got an error with my flow, and it didn't really output any error messages or anything to it. What would be? I'm trying a couple different things, but I was kind of expected some sort of like better error message or some sort of explanation as to what exactly was failing.
The Slack community is a great place to go. We have a member of our team, Dylan's on here. I'm sure he'd be happy to chime in a little bit about the our AI bot that exists there that also can help with error message translation.
Yeah, the Slack community is great. When you join, you'll see a bot called Pi, and all you have to do is @mention Pi with the error message and the code. The more verbose you are, the better, because like ChatGPT or other AI tools, it's pretty incredible. It's been trained on all of our docs, all programming knowledge, so that can be very helpful. You can also reach out to our support team, because everybody that's a part of the trial of the advanced plan for the first 14 days gets access to our premium support. So you can also send the details there if you need to talk to us in private about sensitive data or code, and we can always help take a look at workflows there. So number of options, and I'm happy to share some resources if you reach out.
Okay, yeah, I mean, literally it didn't give me any error. It says Pipedream internal error. And then I click to expand it, and it just says, like, there's.
Got it. Yeah. That specifically is a catch-all error that can happen in a number of conditions, and we don't raise the error message because it's not related to your workflow. It's probably another root error, and if you reach out to support and just copy the link to your workflow and share it there. Okay. We have logs and we can take a look at the actual issue. And I think that's definitely the best way in this case to coordinate.
Okay. So, I mean, I guess in that situation, if I'm working at 1 a.m. on a weekend, you guys would not be available to help me through that?
No, but this specific error, I think, is pretty rare. And so normally, I can send you docs on this. Normally, you get a very specific error related to the issue. I want to take a look at what the issue here is. And again, I think if you go to pipedream.com/support, you'll see the support form you can fill out and just share the details, and we can talk more there.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem.
Anyone else have any other questions?
Hi. Thanks for the introduction. Sorry for my English. I'm not a native speaker. So my question is, there is a way of building my custom actions to share across all Pipedream users, not only for my team, but for everyone. So I can build one to be there in the Pipedream workflows for all users.
Yeah, I had a couple questions on that. Is this for an application that Pipedream integrates with today? Or is this for a new integration that we don't yet support?
Yes, it's for instance, I know there's a integration for AWS, right? So to create a item in a bucket, right? But for instance, to create to save multiple files in S3 in AWS is hard, right? Because there is no for cycle, I think, or I don't know. But to build something like that and to share that custom action for other users maybe could be helpful. So I know there is a hidden GitHub repository, but I don't know if I can push there something.
Yeah, you absolutely can. It's a great question. I just shared in Zoom chat a link to our contribution docs. And you're exactly right. You clone that GitHub repository and you can contribute. And all the instructions with quick starts on how to build actions, if you haven't yet, are included in that. So take a look at those docs and let us know if you have any questions. We also, our component development team chats in our public Slack workspace. So if you have any questions, you can join that and talk to us there. But that doc is the best place to get started.
Okay, thanks. Perfect.
Yeah, thank you for contributing. That's great.
Yes. Speaking of the community, I just now looked at like your pull requests and stuff on there. Are these are a lot of these user contributed ideas that someone extends and then you guys just add into the whole arsenal, or if there is enough requests, then you guys will build it yourself?
Yeah, that's exactly right. We have a number of ways that customers raise requests, and we prioritize requests, depending on the customer's plan. And then on GitHub, we have a number of other issues. We are looking at popularity of those issues to determine, if they're going to go into the next set of work. And you can always reach out if you have, an urgent request. And you can talk about that with our team so we can help prioritize it. But yeah, that is the best way to raise new integrations. If you have a request for a new app or a new specific trigger or action, our GitHub repository or our Slack community is the best way to raise that.
And do you have a roadmap of what that is for your for your future plans?
Yeah, I'll share. We try to do as much development on our iterations as possible in public, and I'll share the link to our GitHub project board also in Zoom chat. And you can take a look there at all the issues that are in progress and everything that our team has prioritized next.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, that doesn't represent the full product backlog. The full product backlog is not open in the same way, but we do track product features on GitHub. So if you have an idea for a product feature, if you see a bug, you can also raise an issue there. We do look at the popularity of those requests as well, and that feeds into our main backlog. What I shared now is purely the integrations backlog. All of that work happens on public GitHub.
Was there something specific that you were curious about or looking for?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the earlier before this meeting, I was looking for iCloud triggers, and I found that, as someone else already posted in there, I wasn't sure how, like, I thumbed it up, but I didn't know how else do you, like, does someone go in and just make a comment on it, or how do you figure out the popularity of it?
Yeah, the best way, if you need something urgently, I would say the best way is to reach out on public Slack. and communicate about it there. You can also comment on the issue, and we see all of those. We don't get real-time notifications for thumbs ups. We look at those on a regular basis, and then try to prioritize the list accordingly. But I would say if you're ever blocked on something, best way is to reach out to our team via either a support channel or the community.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I commented on it. I did see another response in there talking about, it was a link to how to build your own Pipedream sources. So that that's always an option too. That's definitely not as a, you know, clicking a button and entering some authorization, but that's at least a path forward to what I was looking for.
Awesome.
Any other questions on anything?
Yes, just one more. There is a built-in props, right, in building workflows. There is a way of using that built-in props in our custom action.
Yes. So the component API should be linked from that first link that I shared with you about the contribution process. And everything you can do in code steps within workflows, add props, connect, data stores, apps, any of that stuff is available in the full component API, which is how you develop public actions. So yes, you'll see in the registry, our GitHub repo, you'll see essentially all of our integrations use shared code across triggers and actions for a specific app. So when you're developing props, you can develop them in one place in a single file, and then even share them across other actions and triggers for that app. So if you're developing Slack actions, then you'll frequently want to use the Slack channel. And you can write that as a prop once and then reuse it across all your actions. So yes, props are supported and a number of other things are supported, and the component API docs should enumerate any of that.
Okay, and for instance, here in this example where you write the code, here in these props, you can use props for another component, like, I don't know, Discord or AWS bucket name or something like that.
You can, and I will share. Would you mind reaching out actually to support about that question, and we can connect, because we don't have docs on this, but we can do this. You can share props from any other app, because we publish those as NPM packages, public NPM packages, and you can reference them that way. But I'd like to document that, and then I can follow up with a link to that documentation if you don't mind.
Yeah, fine, that's great.
Great. And again, just for everyone, I'll share the link here again to our support page, and you'll see the form, and you can connect with our team that way.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
And that's accessible just within your account. If you click on help and docs, you click on support, and that lets you submit to our team.
I got another question on the tokens there. So is it each time that a flow gets ran, is that considered a token for the cost of
Talking about the credits.
Yeah, credits.
Yeah, so a credit represents 30 seconds of compute time. So we're not charging for steps within a workflow. We're charging more for just the compute time that's leveraged within a workflow. For most workflows, it's going to just be a single credit, but then that can fluctuate based on if you're increasing memory usage on that workflow, if you just have a longer workflow that has more to process within it.
So what if does that include time if I'm waiting for a synchronous call or something like that to a outside service, like, I don't know, Chat GPT or something, right? That that's processing something and then we're waiting for a response back. Does that time count also?
Dylan, could you chime in on that?
Yes, synchronous work, like making an HTTP request to a service like that,
Yeah.
will charge compute time because the workflow is active and waiting. I am going to share this. This will not work for ChatGPT. For ChatGPT and slow APIs like that, it will incur compute time. There are other APIs that support doing asynchronous work and sending a webhook later. And I'll share some docs on that because you can use these techniques in your own workflows to kick off jobs and to suspend a workflow. That will not charge compute time during the period where the workflow is waiting. And then that other service can send a webhook back to essentially start the workflow again with the data that's been processed. And that's a very effective technique when you have long-running jobs in third-party services. And we try to support that the best we can. Again, for things like ChatGPT, it can be hard when you're waiting for a synchronous response, and that is charged as compute time.
Okay.
But I'll share the docs in just a moment for the other method I recommended.
Okay, so you were recommending it having it call back the same web or the same flow, but the flow would just keep track of where that's coming from and then jump to that particular point.
Yeah, for services that support this method. And again, ChatGPT does not support this. When you're doing a synchronous HTTP request to ChatGPT, and you're waiting for that response, you will incur compute time. But when a service supports it, the link I just shared, that shows you how to kick off an asynchronous job, suspend the workflow. You won't get charged compute time until the service calls back in and starts the workflow again.
Okay. So I could just put my own wrapper around like ChatGPT or something that would.
You could technically, yes. I mean, it's a great idea to experiment. This is where combining multiple workflows, or if you operate your own service through this, that's totally fine. But we will create workflows that themselves call other workflows for use cases like this, where you want to create, yeah, exactly. You want to create your own async API around ChatGPT. I think that's a great idea. And then any other workflows could call that service. You would still incur the compute time, though, in that other workflow that wraps ChatGPT with an async API. But I think there's a lot of promise in thinking that way, right? And extending these APIs in whatever way you want.
Okay. And then as far as interfacing with Pipedream, is there like a, I don't know, is there like an SDK or something that you guys have for doing that? Or is it, I would just use like a standard, type of webhook?
Yeah, that we've tried to keep that very simple. You would want to create an HTTP trigger on the workflow and then call that workflow using any HTTP library. Okay. And that is by far the simplest way to invoke a Pipedream workflow. And then, Pipedream workflows can return any HTTP response. So that is the preferred way to send data into Pipedream.
Okay. What about getting an external like progress indicator? Like this isn't something that's immediately on my list, but I'm wondering, like, I don't know, maybe like a WebSockets or I guess throughout the flow, it could maybe you could have it send out multiple calls to some REST API or something that would say, okay, this step's done, now it's doing this step. Yeah,
that's a great idea. Are you familiar with server sent events?
No.
I'll share these docs. So we don't support WebSockets. We do support server sent events. which do not operate bidirectionally, but essentially Pipedream pushes real-time events out via a server sent event, SSE stream. Any client can then consume those events in real time. So essentially Pipedream is the publisher. We're publishing these events in real time from your workflow. And then whatever service needs to listen for those real-time events can subscribe to that stream. And that is a very effective way for communicating events in real time. Now you can also send webhooks, right? So from a workflow, if you have an API that consumes HTTP requests, at whatever point in your workflow you want to communicate that real-time state, you can also just send an HTTP request to an external service. So you have a couple of options.
Okay.
But I'll share those docs in just a moment.
Cool. I know we're running up against it on time, so I appreciate the questions. You'll have some great questions, and as Dylan called out a few times, if you have more questions, these are great topics that we're happy to chat through in more depth. If you want to just reach out through support, so it'd be an awesome next step on any of these topics.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'll check out the Slack channel that you guys have.
Yeah, thanks for all the questions, everyone. This is great.
Great. Yeah, have a great rest of your day, everyone. Bye.
Thanks.
Thanks.